One of the saddest stories you ever hear. A child is defending, trying to save his own mother, and dies in the process. Put up these pictures for a mass. 11 years of age, a hero. According to police and local reports, 37-year-old Crosetti Brand on the left is now facing charges including first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, armed robbery, home invasion, domestic battery for fatally stabbing 11-year-old Jayden Perkins on the right, and also injuring the child's 33-year-old pregnant mother, Lateria Smith, at their Chicago home on March 13th. Mr. Brand, who had a history of domestic violence, and Smith had a relationship 15 years ago with Mr. Brand. Mr. Brand was released from a Chicago area prison one day prior to this attack. According to the reports, when police arrived at the 5900 block of North Ravenswood Avenue at about 8 a.m., they discovered Perkins with an injury to his chest, and Smith, who was 8 months pregnant, was cut several times, including her neck. Officials said that Brand barged into the home while the mother was getting ready to take her two sons to school. Smith and Perkins were transported to a local hospital where Perkins was pronounced deceased. Sadly, the 33-year-old mother's 5-year-old son witnessed this gruesome stabbing as well. He was not injured during the incident, but Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling expressed worry for the young child's mental health and well-being. Quote, "We have to imagine what that 5-year-old is going to have to deal with for the rest of his life after witnessing something so brutal," end quote. Brand, a convicted felon, was let out of Stateville Correctional Center last Tuesday, March 12th, according to the Chicago Sun-Times. He was initially sentenced to 16 years, serving just over 8 for home invasion and aggravated domestic battery for a separate incident with another woman, and reportedly was released on parole last fall. His recent release comes after Brand was taken into custody in February on a parole violation charge where he was accused of harassing Smith, who had recently reached out to authorities for protection, the newspaper reported. After Brand allegedly texted her, threatening her, and showed up at her doorstep and tried to forcibly enter on February 1st, the woman immediately contacted the police, who told her to get a protection order. Smith requested an emergency order, which a judge denied because Brand was behind bars. He was behind bars at the time. Now remember, there's no final adjudication, which means the judge understood he could come out of jail at any time. So him being behind bars at the time should not have dissuaded an actual ruling here in the favor of the woman. With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show. According to the outlet, officials now claim that she had a lifetime protection in place stemming from a 2009 incident, which raised questions for advocates who want to know why Brand wasn't charged with violating that order. Because if he was charged with violating the 2009 order that was affixed in perpetuity, he would have still been in jail likely and not able to get out, okay? Also unresolved is the question of why Brand was paroled again last week despite evidence that he violated the terms of his parole in February. The Sun-Times reports that the Illinois Prisoner Review Board addressed this issue with a statement that read in part, quote, "A hearing determined the alleged violations did not meet the preponderance of the evidence standard." Per People, Perkins had a passion for performing in theater, and he had the lead role in multiple school plays, including Finding Nemo. Meanwhile, a fundraiser was created by Jayden School to help his family. And on March 19th, it reportedly had collected over $120,000. The fundraiser described Perkins as an exceptional young man who loved spending time with his friends, playing sports and performing. His infectious laughter and kind heart touched the lives of everyone he met. Per Block Club Chicago, Jayden's mom and unborn sibling are out of the hospital and they are recovering. Not only was he an amazing young man, he was also heroic. He died battling, fighting to save his mother, and probably did. Now, I want to say this, there are a lot of failures here. So to the individual who did this crime, he is where he should be, which is in prison. That is my humble opinion. But see, cause and effect, I wish we would get this part. He was in prison for 16 years. That's a controlled environment. I want you to just imagine a world, just for a second. Let's forget about the politics. I'm not pushing some kind of far out agenda. I just want you to think about this. If we lived in a world where we really dedicated our resources to the dogmatic art of rehabilitation, of making sure re-entry was seamless, of connecting individuals to opportunities inside rather than to despair outside. I'm making no excuse for what he did. He's where he belongs. But I want you to think about cause and effect. Opportunity matters. It does. And I'm not saying it would have changed this situation, but I guarantee you it will change some. What is the biggest deterrent to recidivism? What keeps more people out of jail than anything else? Some people will say a made up mind to not go back. That's a lie based on the data. The biggest deterrent to recidivism is a damn job. That's it. A skill and work. And I want you to also look at the judicial system here. How does a judge deny a routine? This is a routine request. And it's such a unique request that is one of the few things you can go to a judge for without the necessity of the opposing party. You don't need the opposite party present for one of these kinds of hearings. Why? Because the judiciary looked at this many, many years ago and said, based on good public policy, we have to be able to move in a way that will disallow, at least in this instance, the requirement of the accused to be present during the adjudication of a temporary restraining order. And the judge did not utilize the simple, yes, I will agree, we will allow the temporary restraining order. And then thirdly, there was already a restraining order, a protective order from 2009 that would have, under normative circumstances, stopped his ability to get out and do what he did. And not only was it not enforced, they're saying, well, it didn't really meet the standard here. What? How in the hell does this not meet the standard? All right, Mayor Mondale, you as a policy expert yourself, a studier of these things in a significant way, you see so many of the failures that took place here, point by point. Illuminate them for us.
Yeah, I mean, I literally was thinking about what I was gonna say, and then you started talking, and I was like, that brother need a show by himself. Because I mean, in all seriousness, like it absolutely was a reoccurrence of failure on policy and people. One, we talk about this idea that someone can be housed in a situation that people tend to forget that our incarceration process is about rehabilitating, and we can't say that it does that. I mean, we actually have to say that it fails epically at doing that if we look at the recidivism rate and also all of the hurdles it creates for people to ever move back into a normal life or life before prison systems. And other countries don't have that problem. So there is that failure on institution and institutional level, but then there's also the individual failure where we see someone that is so cold that they would enacting or behave in such a behavior. So that does exist, but we are obligated to talk about not just individuals. Like even the writing of this article is absolutely disgusting. There was a study from the University of Florida that said calling people felons, because people can't be felons. Felonies are actions. It's like we heard this in the article. Calling people felons helps or aids in the actual the recidivism rate and being higher than what it should be. So we know just even the way we refer to people and how we otherize people have a role in where people wind up and find themselves. So the system failed these people. It definitely failed these children who watched and were part of this horrible situation, and that mother. But then there's also another failure that is America's prison system. And since we've had a war on crime, our crime population has exploded, which tells you about that.
That's right. Very well said. And I concur wholeheartedly. And things like Ban the Box, which are initiatives that both you and I, dear brother, have been a part of, it seeks to eliminate this fictional stigma as it relates to being able to work. An individual, a man or woman, is paid their dues. They are working in a job that requires a particular skill set that they have. I understand the nuances of if there's a crime that involved a child, you can't have them as a school teacher. I get that completely. But we don't look at it in a nuanced way, and we act as if, well, we didn't know that these things could adversely impact communities. Yeah, people have to work. That's the reality of it. And skills are part of that success. All right. Hearts and prayers.